So tell me, how did you end up choosing for this tactical the diesel outboards? I mean, we don't see them all too often, but I mean, it's sort of this holy grail of you
Right.
know people have been talking and wanting it. So tell me a little bit about your journey in choosing the product and what were your hesitations,
Yeah,
pros
great.
and cons. Tell us a little bit about how you went about going that for the tactical hull number two.
So I can go back to what I said at the beginning of this webinar, being the guinea pig. Well, I don't like to be the guinea pig, but I was careful because diesels in an outboard package, as they've been around for a fair amount of time, but in a mass production and a large horsepower scenario, it's relatively new to the world. And there's
Hmm.
several companies out there doing it. We found Cox diesel outboards out of London, England, to be the best fit for what we want to do. There's enough of them proven at this point. They're a relatively new to market company, but been around for 10 plus years in terms of design, technology, investment, what they're doing, and there's quite a backing behind it. So, we did our homework thoroughly, and I thought that, if I can carry a large amount of fuel, and in our boat we're carrying 650 US gallons of fuel, of diesel, which is a lot for its class, and the goal was to have range. And if I can take that to the next level, and have a diesel outboard that's going to be anywhere between 20 to 30% more efficient. We're running at lower RPMs. Each one of these 300 horsepower outboards is producing close to 500 foot-pounds of torque. When we ran the numbers and went through the engineering and the naval architecture on our project, it was a great fit. And we're about to prove it shortly. We'll be one of the first setups of a triple outboard package. We could have done with a dual package, but at the same point, we want to push the limits. We want to have some more speed capabilities and things like that. And there's some unique configurations. So when we looked at it, that we could be running, in theory, triple engines, get up on a plane and shut down the center engine and raise the leg and be cruising more efficient at a certain speed and burning less fuel, that was appealing. And then going one step farther, let's say that you were wanting to go, up to Alaska or coastal cruising, and it wasn't about speed; it was about, making anywhere between 6 and 9 knots. We can lift up the two outboard engines and run on a single at an appropriate RPM and massively increase the range of this boat and turn into a trawler mode. So those things for us were super appealing to do some unique stuff, and proof will be in the pudding. We'll prove shortly what we can do, good and bad, and we'll modify if need be. But like I said, all the numbers made a lot of sense. They're an expensive engine, but at the end of the day, what we're getting out of it, service intervals, the life expectancy, the safety factor of carrying 650 US gallons of diesel versus gasoline in the boat, we really like that factor. It made a lot of sense. So really optimistic about it, and excited to get on the water as much as I've ever been for something, and prove the package.
So tell me, has this been done before? Where it's the first time I hear about it. I think it's pretty neat. So you take off with three, of course. Getting onto planes the hardest, and then are you manually disengaging one engine and actually then turning it off, lifting the leg for drag, and then you're having the boat basically stay on plane, which is obviously less hard than getting onto plane with only two engines. Has that been done before?
So, not that I know of, but we're going to make it happen. I'm
That's
confident that
awesome.
we can have the ability to do it based on all the numbers, the weight of the boat. Like I said, looking at the engineering of it, we're confident we'll make it happen. The proof will be in how efficient we are and how much fuel we're saving, and what the cruise speed comes down to. And so,
Right.
we'll have all those numbers, and we'll know what it's going to look like, and we'll know the optimal ranges. So for us, once again, it's not always about getting there the fastest. We're confident we might get there the first of our faster boats because we can handle rougher water more comfortably in the way we've set this boat up.
What's
So,
the displacement of the boat for the listeners? About
uh, so this boat, put in perspective, if we want to call, let's call it a 40-foot Sea Ray, Tierra, things like that, could be anywhere between 13 to 18,000 pounds in that ballpark. This boat is somewhere between 24 and 28,000 pounds in that ballpark. So similar sizes, but it's a heavier boat. We named the boat Tank, so it's already been named Tank. But fun name just because that was the focus, is getting their efficiency. That's actually a 30-foot model that's on the screen there, another tactical, different than the one we're building now. But just something else to look at, just another future potential design.
You, I don't think we mentioned it. So aluminum hull,
Yes.
and talk a little bit about what you're doing with the finishing inside. I think it's pretty neat what your approach is on the finishing on the inside.
Yeah, so seeing that it's, we have some companies, as we've talked about, with vinyl wraps and wrap boats and history of yacht construction with our primary company, Crescent Yachts, we are going to push some envelopes. So this boat is 100% zero wood. And that sounds, not like a big thing, but most aluminum boats or metal boats have wood throughout in all different areas, whether it's listings, whether it's cabinetry, furniture, installations, parts and pieces. And one of the goals of this project was is to go 100% non-wood for the boat to prove that we could do it by using man-made products, things that are water impermeable for rot reasons. In theory, this boat, you could open up the salon and we'll be able to hit it with a hose. And we might just do a video where we literally walk into what looks like a completely finished teak interior and hit it with a hose and just hose it down. Just some unique things. So the boat's going to be entirely vinyl wrap. It's full aluminum grade construction, military standard plus, Navy standard plus in terms of the structure and the ribbing and the makeup of the unit. And then the whole boat has a sound deadening and anti-vibration spray foam throughout to help with sweating and moisture and all of those things far beyond what a lot of traditional builders would be doing, just to kind of take us to the next level. So there's a lot of time in the details of this boat with anti-vibration and sound deadening.
Yeah, the one thing too, Tim, I like what you're doing there. I remember talking to you just before Christmas. Is sort of that because obviously there's no engines inside the hull, we've got all this area for systems, and a place where everything can be really well laid out of, that there is not, it's, you're not almost stepping on yourself. A lot of boats, unfortunately, the systems are the last thing to be thought about, and they're important because that's what gives us a lot of creature comforts. And on this one, you open that hatch and with, the lighting and everything else, it to me, it's going to make it, a dream to service. It's a place where, yeah, of course, you've got to, you're not going to be standing room, but it's a place where you can actually access all the different components that give you the benefits of being on, being connected to a power grid and have all this, inverters and again, like that, all that stuff, batteries and all the combiners and chargers, all that stuff is now easily accessible. And what do you call that space on that boat? I don't want to come up with a name, but you probably have one. What do you call
That's a good. We'll work on a marketing term for it because it
that?
definitely need one. But in
Yeah.
theory, that's exactly what we did. Is we took a space that was the engine bay that is designed for the boat, and we took out what would be traditionally, two twin 500 horsepower diesel engines,
Hmm.
removed those out of that area, and then came up with the plan to use 360 degrees of the vertical space to install all the equipment and free up all of
Love
the
it.
horizontal space in the deck. So what we're able to do right now is, the amount of things that we can keep below deck and toys and equipment and storage and unique things, it's endless for this size boat. So,
Oh, it is.
it's another video we should probably do in the future is how much stuff we can cram under deck and keep pulling out and pulling out as it'll be ridiculous. So it was definitely a focus of the design is to do that and the serviceability, being able to get down there easily and see visually and service everything in a well lit area is definitely part of what the plan and vision was for the boat.
Yeah. What do you think the range is at cruising speeds on that boat? Do you have a sense of what that's going to be at
Yeah,
cruising speeds?
we have some ideas, but those are hesitant numbers that I like to put not a lot of weight to until we actually prove it. In theory, this is going to be anywhere between a 500 to 700 nautical mile range boat.
Oh, wow.
There's a bunch of room in there, and going into trawler mode, we could be well over 1,000 nautical miles on this boat. So, we'll look and see what it is. But I mean, we're pushing a big unit. We've got 900 horsepower of diesel, over, just around 1,500 foot-pounds of torque out of the back of this boat on oversized props. And, it is called tank for a reason. And it's part of the ride quality. So, at the end of the day, are you going to find more efficient boats? Yes. But is it going to be very efficient and very comfortable and very quiet and have a very good ride quality to it? Absolutely, because that's what we're putting our time and money and energy into.
Yeah. Yeah. I
It's a
like the
hard one to
name
put
too.
your finger on, and any car can get you down the road, but if you've ever driven in a well-built vehicle, and there's just a difference and a level of comfort, and that's really what we're pushing for is that general comfort feeling and safety on the water.
Yeah. So for the listeners out here in British Columbia, here we have a lot of because of the narrow passages in between all the islands and the inlets. We have a situation that we get a lot of currents around here related to the tides, and wind over tide around here is you can get some crazy steep chop. It can be humbling. The waves are almost vertical in certain places in around Vancouver Island, and you know, having speed is one thing, and it's one thing that you have a boat when it's relatively flat, and that's of course always pleasant and it feels like a walk in the park. But it's being able to handle the conditions that Mother Nature throws at us with wind over current. It can you know I it it can get pretty rough out here. Obviously it's not the outside, it's not crazy seas, but you can have a sea that can be pretty steep and uncomfortable. Have you done the same thing on this one for the seats? What's going on at the helm on this boat on the tactical?
I know it's a good question. So there is quite a few companies building some really excellent pneumatic seating these days. It's becoming a little more affordable. We're using a company that's also from British Columbia called Shockwave Marine Seating.
Mm,
So we're using on this boat their S5 units that some of the viewers probably seen in different ads and things like that. Really nice compact little unit with their Corbin custom seats over top. So it's not the highest level of pneumatic, shock absorbing seating, but it's something that will take it to the next level in this boat. And in the first one that we did, we went over the top and we did full, Navy grade, 100% crazy $20,000 type seats, per seat setup over the top. And it was awesome, but that goes back to the whole thing about maybe a little excessive. And so we've looked at what makes sense, and this is kind of finding that value proposition of in between where we're really
right.
happy with the results and the value makes a lot of sense for the product.
So can we talk a little bit about the nav system that you chose for that boat?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
talk to us a little bit about your decisions. How did you go about choosing the navigation package for this boat for the listeners out there? How did you decide for that 40 footer what you were going to go with?
So I like where Garmin's gone with a lot of their stuff over the years. And,
Mm,
when they first got into the marine industry, I think a lot of people just went, they're a car, situation. They're not going to make it. And they made some big waves pretty quick in the industry and where they've got to. So what I like is it's very intuitive. And, if you went back 5 years ago, there'd be a lot of captains and owners that would turn their nose up to some of the Garmin stuff, and they would have to be stuck on certain brands and things like that. And I won't go into that whole debate because that's just a whole separate topic. But I decided I wanted something that was user friendly and capable. And
okay.
whether it's myself at the helm or whether it is a customer or a newer boater, comfort and being able to make quick decisions based on information that's in front of you. So the largest screens possible for good visibility, because when it's hairy out or like you mentioned, rough in the water, being able to make smart choices. The more comfortable you are and how easy it is to use the system is just how much better your boating experience is. And for me, the Garmin package was a very good value for what you got through a user interface without having to go to a whole school learning how to use the system.
What kind of radar did you end up choosing on that boat? Did you guys end up doing a radome or an open array?
Yeah, so we ended up going with the radome. We've used the open array before. For our needs on this goal in this product, radome made sense value wise, cost wise. Um,
Mhm.
it was one of those ones that it was more about functionality and value than it was about having something that was maybe overkill or bigger visual or more impressive. So I think we went a little more economical, but I'm really happy with what we're going to be capable of doing with just the radome.
Did you end up with the Phantom line for the radar? Do you know the
That is
radome?
that is a great question. Someone that works at our company knows that answer.
Yeah, I think you ended up with the Phantom line, by the way. That's the recommendation that speaking with your team, that's I think where you ended, which is pretty I mean, Garmin makes great radars, there's no doubt.
Yep, that's what we used right there.
Yeah, exactly. Phantom radar, honestly, I had sold a lot of those radars before I tried it on my own boat, and I can't believe how the crazy thing about them is the automatic acquisition of targets So they're actually identifying targets that are coming near you or away from you, and they're color coding them differently. And this is without even a user. So you can literally now start using your radar without having to be a pro about radar. You can actually turn it on, do a radar overlay, or have it on one screen. And then you can literally have, because there's certain places in British Columbia, again, where there's a lot of different little islands and islets, and you don't even know, it's hard to memorize everything when you're going fast. And to know that an object is moving and it's not stationary, and to have to see that target be color coded differently depending if it's moving away from you or closer to you is really a good way, especially at speed, to discern objects of interest versus objects that, they're going away from you. There's not really a problem. And I think that radar packs a lot of punch. And I tried it on my own boat, and I had the original one. I had a 18, and I think it was an HD plus, and I upgraded to the Phantom. I was like, wow. I was like, okay, I get it now. Okay, and the price difference is nominal too, which is great.
It's all
Um,
about confidence on the water, and those are just factors that give you more confidence. And the more confidence you have with cruising, whether it's with your family or with friends and things
mm,
going on with distractions, just enhances your experience in the water. And you're going boating because you want to relax, you want to unwind. And if you're nerving and upset and cautious about everything going on because you don't have good information and you don't have reliable systems, then it's going to be a negative effect on your weekends away. So once again, having some of those products just makes it, bang on worth it.
so another thing too that I think is worth talking, and you mentioned this about the open concept, but tell us a little bit, and I think I've seen this on other boats as well, but tell us about the way that, how are the aft deck and the salon and the galley separated? How does one access the other? Can you tell us a little bit about, now we're talking more interior sort of layout, but tell us a little bit about how you went about designing the interior layout of this boat.
Yeah, I know that's a great thing. I mean, I believe that good food, good drinks, good friends make for good times. And when you're there, when you get to that location where we're going to be, whether you're on anchor, you're tied to a dock, and you're wanting to entertain, being in one common space, you don't want to have whoever's doing the cooking separated from everyone else. You don't want to have a disjointed boat. You don't want to have upper levels and lower levels where the primary time you spend other than sleeping is in these main areas. So the focus was is to make a 40-ish foot boat feel bigger, and how we did that is by an opening bulkhead. So the traditional bulkhead where you would go into the cabin is set up on a full opening window with an opening door that opens up the space, and right to that area. You have your working space of your galley, you have your sink, your cooktop, your prep area, all your refrigeration equipment, everything right there. So that what, whoever's cooking and whatever's going out, just like having a kitchen party, you're right there. And the key is just having everybody right there, hanging out. Because
Together.
what do you do when you're boating? You're cooking, you're eating, you're having a good time, and that's what it's all about. So the focus of this boat was around all those sorts of things of just entertaining and hanging out.
Yeah, and so you're actually, I love it too. I mean, I remember seeing the original number one, and even with number two. I mean, I think the layout, that open concept, is a game changer. You're absolutely right. Growing up in a French Canadian family where all the parties happened in the kitchen, and the living room was almost empty, and everybody was standing room, sitting on counters around. The magic happens in the kitchen or around the kitchen, and to have the galley be not, like you say, tucked away too far, is, especially when the weather's nice. Um, that
Yeah,
is
that's a
just
great
awesome.
picture there. So that's looking through the aft bulkhead. So there's no mullions or anything between there. The first boat was a powered window, so the window went down, the door opened, and that space is completely open. In the next model we're building right now, we changed the settee layout, and where you'd be looking at the aft side of that settee, that's now part of the galley on the other side. So it's a little bit different setup. So it relates a little bit more to the indoor outdoor better. And it probably takes that open concept kind of to the next level.
Yeah, and you're right. It's a great way to, when you start putting walls everywhere. I remember visiting an apartment in Vancouver, and I think it was a 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom, and a den, and like 900 square feet. Every room felt like a closet, and the whole thing felt like a dungeon. And I know it met all the boxes. You could raise a family there, but the challenge was every single space was your own, but it was tiny. And I think with an open concept, yeah, you might not have, dedicated spaces for certain things, but the reality is we generally when you're boating, especially on a boat of this size, you're choosing who's on board. I mean, these are for certainly for myself, when I'm boating, I'm with loved ones. These are people that I care about. These are people I want to spend time with. I'm not going there to have my own space when I have guests on board the boat. I'm going there to live. It's a party that almost never ends. Really, it's a weekend that you're making memories from morning to night, and then it just repeats. And so, be having that common space is a great way to just create the memories. And nobody feels isolated because everybody wants to be in it. I think when we're boating, you don't want to be on your own. And I've seen boats where the galley is literally tucked away down below, multiple steps, no windows. Yeah, that's harder. I mean, of course, I understand that some boaters have to have that, but if you're given a choice of not having it, certainly some of us are going to appreciate that open concept.
Yeah, if I
Tell me
can.
a little bit about the TV. We had spoken about that. What did you end up doing with the TV setup? Because I thought that was pretty neat when we were dreaming on the back deck of that boat just before Christmas. Tell me where you landed on that.
Maybe just one thing before that I'll mention. If you don't have a setup where, you can't have an open concept, you got an existing boat, you have the galley below, you're disconnected. Hey, a great easy way to be able to bring that up is, buy a better barbecue. Buy a
Oh
better
yeah.
green barbecue and design some meal plans that really are focused around barbecuing all your meal plans. Bring some of your prep station outside, buy a cool cutting board that fits for your boat. Bring your party to
Mm.
the back deck. Bring it out there. Don't focus on a stove down below. And like I said, for several $100, you can upgrade your barbecue, change your meal plan. You can change the whole feeling of how you're boating that weekend.
Yeah,
So that's just an idea.
that's a good point. Yeah.
But the TV, yeah, a little opulent over the top. So, maximizing the size. We have a settee inside where on a, cold, rainy day or whatever it may be, you want to sit there with a couple, pillows and cuddle up with some kids or hang out with a loved one, flip it down, watch a movie. But on the other side, we can open the back bulkhead window, split that TV 180 degrees, and we've got a 47-inch TV right on the back deck of the boat, which is completely oversized for a 40-foot boat in that space.
Awesome.
And then we've got it set up with HDMI and different outputs where we can plug in an air drone we have on the boat, an underwater submarine that's going to be on there, and just have some fun things to do. Let's just take it to the next level. Let's get creative. Hey, you're bored? Well, let's send over the sub and go check out what's at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, the kids. I mean, kids have got to love that. Who doesn't want to be Jacques Cousteau?
So
I
we went
mean,
we
that's
went with a track vision satellite system on this boat, and your company helped us sort that out. And
yeah.
we could be back there, and one of my dreams in opulence would be cruising, trolling for salmon while watching a Seahawks game on Sunday, or
That's awesome.
NHL hockey game or something in the back deck, or maybe even watching a golf match that doesn't take you too much off your fishing game. But that to me was over the top and probably one of the biggest splurges on this design of just something fun.
Yeah, it's that's the great thing about boating like this, especially when you get to dream and build, is it's almost like, to me, I describe it as I remember visiting all these amazing castles in Europe, and all these beautiful homes that were museums. And I think we're doing that in some way with boating. It's where now people are dreaming about, it's not just the size, it's about this sort of, you know, the way that my psychologist told me, it's you can imagine perfection and you're chasing it, because there's boundaries. It's not like land. There are distinctions of that boat, and you can keep finding ways of improving it, making it sort of resonate with what boating you're doing. And when you're on board, I'm smiling just thinking about it. You just feel like it's almost like it's like the way that I imagine my world would be more often than it is, especially on the water. I've never been on the water and said, "Oh, you know what? I wish I was somewhere else." It's always the place I'd rather be. So
Yeah,
that's
well,
very
you said
cool.
it before about loved ones and who you go boating with, and you can have as much fun on a 17-foot fishing boat as you can on a 150-foot yacht, and you can make
100%.
memories that last just as long, if not longer, and better. So it's who you go, it's the mindset, it's about getting on the water, getting those special spots, whether that's out on a a fishing hole you've got, or whether it's a special anchorage that you're going to drop a kayak in the water. Just get on the water, and you will have a better life because of it.
Exactly. So I'm gonna wrap it up. I think we're almost at 1 hour at this point. I want to thank
Awesome.
you, Tim, for joining me on our podcast. I'm really excited about you sharing your passion about not only boating but actually making boating dreams come true for other boaters as well. And with that, I'm going to say a big shout out to everyone for watching. If you've got further questions or comments, please post them down below. You know where you can find us. And if you need to be in contact with Tim for one or many of his companies, let us know. And we'll also put a link down on the section on the website so that you can also find many of the companies that Tim is sort of leading the way with. All right.
Awesome.
Thanks, Tim, for joining us. Thank you.
It was a fun chat. Thanks a lot for doing it.